All right, let's get started. All right, I figured out what happened with the video. Why the sound was playing on Friday. So. All right, and what movie is that from again?
I don't know.
Jerry Maguire. Jerry Maguire's movie it's from. Okay. So what are we talking about?
I don't know.
Taxes.
I have not got my tax return, and they only have 2 days to send, or 2 days for me to receive it. October.
And your W-2s.
No, my actual check they gave me from like the 10th to the 24th is when it's supposed to come in.
There's no set time they can send it in December. So
What?
do So we're talking about macroeconomics, taxes specifically. All right. Somebody tell me what a tax deduction is.
Deduction being able to save some of your taxes, right?
Okay, donations are tax deductions. But what do tax deductions do?
Like to get more taxes, I don't know.
Huh? Now we're getting somewhere. Tax deductions take away dollar amounts from total income and give you taxable income. Okay. Let me say anything else. So your taxable income is your total income minus your tax deductions, things like donation to charity, interest on student loans, and any dependents that you may or may not have. Just a quick look at the tax bracket that we looked at on Friday. If you're under the age of 18, you make less than $6,000, you get all of it back. If you're over the age of 18, you get whatever you make. You make $1, you pay 10% tax on it. Okay, so as soon as you're 18, you are 18, you're subject to this tax bracket. Okay?
I don't hear like something illegal that you claim a job this is like, I don't know, like babysitting or like paying student accounts.
If you make less than $600, you're off the taxes on it. If you make more than
I'm
$600,
saying you only claim like 6,000. Those 6 months. They said it was 6,000. Pretty sure it's.
like if you're 16 and you make more than $600 from one family in a calendar year, you have to
I'm saying
report
like,
that.
what if it was someone that was like older?
It's 600.
It's
So like if you're 40 and you babysit and you make $600 from one family, you have to report that as income. If it's more than $600. Okay? Then we talked about how your employer holds your money back, right? They take money before you ever get to see it. They're not keeping that, they're not spending it, they're paying your income taxes with that money. And if you're self-employed, how does it work? Quarterly. So in January, you say, I estimate I'm going to make this amount of money in January, February, or March, and then you pay your lump sum, and then you do that again for the next 3, the next 3, the next 3, and then when tax time rolls around, you take a look at your estimates and say, hey, my estimates were really low, I made a lot more, you're going to have to pay more taxes, or my estimates were really high, I made less, you get tax money back. right? So these estimates are fixed every year around tax time. Any questions over this stuff yet? I believe this was as far as we got. We talked about Al Capone. Anybody know why he was up here? Or remember why he's up here?
And then we got transaction.
Yeah, he's responsible for hundreds of deaths, but the only way they could get him in jail was get him on tax.
He was like legit gangster, like drug lord, like and
Opposed the OG of OGs. Correct. All right, let's talk about other taxes.
Great.
Because there are even more taxes. Sometimes your taxes get taxed.
That's so stupid.
Yeah. So the first one we're going to talk about is corporate income tax. All right? Corporations have their income tax just as citizens do. So Apple makes so many dollars, that money is taxed just as if it were an individual. Now we talked about this on Friday. Corporations, in the eyes of the IRS and in the law, are people. So Apple Incorporated is a person. And that is designed so that they can be sued as a company. But sometimes it backfires on them, meaning the government. So this means that corporations, since they are classified as individuals, are only subject to the individual tax returns. So it means corporations that make billions of dollars just pay the highest tax bracket that individuals pay. Does that make sense? So the highest tax bracket, I believe we just looked at, it was like $413,000. A corporation that makes more than $413,000 has to pay that 39.6%, even if they make $1 billion.
is that how like celebrities are paid?
Yes. Yes, celebrities are like that as well. Professional athletes, they all pay this highest tax bracket rate, even if they make millions and millions and millions of dollars. All right? Now, where you stand on that, whether you think that's right or wrong, is pretty much going to divide the class into Republicans and Democrats, and then you're going to argue with each other. So I'm not going to ask you, okay? Because it's not going to be good.
You won't get paid what they do because they encourage it and stuff.
No, I'm not talking. I understand what you're saying. That's not what I'm getting at. There are some exceptions. For example, nonprofit organizations, churches, public universities. So money made by public universities isn't taxed. Yeah,
Wait,
none of you have gone to a public university yet.
like say,
Yes, that makes me really upset. Because the university of the undergraduate college I attended makes $485,000 a year. Her house is supplied by the university. Her car is supplied by the university. And she gets a $500 a month allowance for food. So what does she need $485,000? What is she paying for? Yeah. So these same people that are paying, and not to mention she got a $125,000 bonus because she cut 100 teachers to save money for the university. And this is not just the university I went to, this happens all over the place. These universities are not subject to income taxes, so they can pay these people exorbitant amounts of money, but when they start guaranteeing that and costs rise, guess who it hits? People that go to school. Average cost of tuition at Yale in 1974 is $2,500 a semester. Does anybody know what it is this very second? 2016, incoming freshmen, so seniors in high school right now that are going to Yale in the fall.
probably like 50 to 75.
$54,200. It's one of the highest compounding inflation phenomenons that we've ever had. Just keeps going up. So there's a lot of talk about making public colleges follow more closely what the people want and what politicians want. but they do not pay taxes, although their employees pay income taxes.
Why not pay taxes?
Because they are funded by quote unquote the public. So it would be like charging the federal government income tax. In that sense. Is the way it's looked at. And I'm not saying we should charge the taxes, but I am saying, come on, get rid of it. Think about where you're spending your money. So that's corporate income tax. Most of you won't ever have to deal with that unless you are the CEO, or more accurately, the CFO, which is the finance officer of a major corporation. Other than that, it's not going to affect you. Okay? But social insurance taxes affect everybody, and these include Social Security, Medicare, etc. So other things like Medicaid, food stamps, and social welfare programs. Okay? These are known as social insurance taxes. And these, just like your income taxes, are deducted directly from your paychecks before you get to touch it.
At a grocery store, it's like tax and tax.
Because it's tax money.
Every time they come there, like I'll tell them I put one and they swipe their card and something different.
Yeah, that same money that is being collected from people's taxes is being used to spend money on taxes, so they can say no, taxes. Okay? So it's gone, but what a lot of you may not know, what I didn't know for a long time, is that however much they take out of your paycheck for Social Security or Medicare, Medicaid, your employer has to match that exact amount. All right, so right now I think for Social Security, Medicare, it's like 6% for both combined. So 6% of your income goes to this every time you get paid, and your employer matches that same dollar amount and then sends it to the government. Okay, so your employer is required by law to match your contributions to social insurance taxes. This follows a regressive structure, different from income taxes, which are progressive. So what is a regressive structure? Progressive means the more you make, the more you pay. What does regressive mean? The more you make, the less you pay. All right? So what this is the people that are more likely to use these social programs usually contribute a higher percentage of their income. Now, I'm not saying somebody that makes $10,000 and somebody that makes $1 million, this person that makes $10,000 is not going to pay more than this person that makes $1 million. But they are going to pay a higher percentage of their income. Does that make sense? Like they may pay 10% of their income, $1,000, and they may pay 3% of their income, just $30,000. Okay, so the poorer you are, the higher taxes you pay for social insurance taxes because you are more likely to use those things than people on this end. But don't blame me for Social Security because teachers don't pay Social Security. But we also can't use it. So, how many of you are having a decent day? It seems like I ruined your day more days than I don't. Okay?
Do you feel like
So,
that?
I apologize, but
Monday.
this is going to make you upset. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is going to make you more upset than this one. All right?
Yes.
So,
Say it on your
I need your phone, your car keys, or one of your shoes.
Oh, your
She
She leaves her keys in her car, in the ignition.
It's her car. Yeah, she wants Does anybody know what an excise tax is?
Well, it's not really what they want to do, it's how they don't live around. But if someone were to steal your car, you the next call and like claiming because we want the keys and stuff.
Yeah, your insurance will cover that. Anybody know what an excise tax is?
No.
It's taxes on stuff the government deems not necessary.
It's like alcohol.
It's like alcohol. Tobacco. And the one that's going to make you the most upset, gasoline, is excise tax. Yeah,
You can maintain a job and everything without gas, right?
sure. Yeah, obviously. At least that's what the government says. So these are taxes on manufacture, transportation, sale, and consumption of goods. Basically, that is stuff that you don't, quote unquote, need. Okay? So I believe there should be more. Including cigarettes, liquor, gasoline, airline tickets are excise taxed. Okay? Take a look next time you go to airline, or you're going to fly on an airline. It used to be they would give you this price, and then when you went to check out, they would charge you like almost double that in taxes. Now the federal government requires them to list their price with taxes included, but a good percentage of that ticket is going to excise tax. Okay? So you are paying a tax for simply being able to afford a luxury.
Great.
Yeah.
I hate
Other things, train tickets, bus tickets.
I'll just walk.
you know.
Yeah. Anybody ever ridden on an Amtrak?
Or none.
They're really
Amtrak.
expensive.
It's actually, it's not that bad. You can go from New York City to San Francisco, California for like $248. It's a passenger train. You ride a train all the way across the United States. It's a beautiful thing.
I like subways.
No, it's open air. You're exposed. You're like countryside, hills, turns. I'm scared of trains.
That's
Scared of trains? I won't give you the odds, but you know you're a lot more likely to die driving every day.
I'm just saying that I'm a lot less likely to have some
Train than I am. All right, so there you go. These are the social insurance tax rates. So the employee pays 7.65% for social insurance taxes in 2016. Your employer matches that 7.65%, remember. If you're self-employed, pay that. But because you are the employer and employee, you've got to match both. So that's why it's so much higher for your self-employed. And then here's your Social Security tax. All right, here's the limit. Okay, so if you look in here, it says Social Security portion 6.2% on earnings. So that's flat, meaning lower income people pay a higher percentage of money than higher income people. Medicare option 1.45%. Problem is, there's a maxed out salary on Social Security. So if you make $1 billion, you're only going to pay 6.2% on $118,000. That's the max. Okay? So there's a max out. Medicare does not have a limit, but it's only 1.45%. Okay? Does everybody understand that? What's going on? Nice and upset? Hey, guess what?
What?
More taxes. Oh, yeah. If you're tired of taxes now, don't grow up. Customs duties. Do you get it? All right. Put a little winky face there because it says duties. Taxes levied on goods imported, it's supposed to say imported, into the U.S. are called customs duties. So these are taxes that companies outside of the United States, they produce goods, they bring them into the U.S. The U.S. says, hey, you've got to pay a tax to bring your good into the U.S. Does anybody know why they would do this?
Just make it.
To make money, yeah, but our goods are produced outside of the United States generally cheaper than ones produced within. If we tax them using customs duties, what does that do? It makes the cost of the imported good and the cost of the good produced in the United States at least closer. They're going to say more competitive is the term. Okay? So it's used to raise revenue, like Mariah said, and protect industry. inside of the state, meaning the United States. But this is something that happens all over the place. The United Kingdom does this, France, Italy, Spain, Canada, Mexico, all those places have customs duties on goods that are produced outside of the United States. Yeah, it is. But if you can imagine, some companies pay 100% customs duty. Meaning whatever their cost was to produce that good, the government says match that again. So they're literally paying double just to get it into the US, and it's still cheap. United States top 2 trading partners, China and Russia. What are made in Vietnam?
Rock rivals, and they're like $170 a pair. They're probably like $70.
It's the same like Banana Republic. You ever been in there? Their clothes are generally more expensive, but they're made the same child labor type conditions. They just make a ton more money on them.
Sorry, but I still like it.
You're not gonna like my opinion on child labor in other countries.
I mean, it is sad, but somebody.
Yeah, I don't know, it goes on the makeup side.
Well, we'll probably watch a video on it later in the year, but child labor is not as horrible of a thing as you think it is.
I know they kids in China that are like 6 years old are like doing what I do now, but they're used to it and it's harder than first.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty, but
I think it's on Mr. Hyde's last video.
it's complicated. The high customs duty is called a protective tariff.
Okay.
Protective tariff.
Yes.
This has been used sometimes as an informal way to stop a country from being able to make money. So for example, we didn't like Cuba for a long time. So what did we do to Cuba? We eventually placed an embargo, but prior to that, we placed a protective tariff on goods of 1,000%. Meaning whatever it cost them to make that good, they would have to pay that 10 times over. That's why Cuban cigars used to be so expensive. Then we placed the embargo, Cuban cigars became illegal. Now that embargo has been lifted, there is still a high protective tariff, but you can't buy them illegally. Because Cuba was a communist nation that stored a nuclear weapon for Russia during the Cold War. So Cuba is not very far from the United States. It's like 70 miles from the US. So we placed this tariff to try and basically strangle them financially so that they would stop helping Russia, so that we wouldn't be at risk. And then we placed the embargo after the Bay of Pigs operation, JFK, and it was a big mess.
The way that like all of those little islands right there, like the Dominican Republic, that Jamaica and Cuba, they all hate us. Like if we weren't over there, they would just pretty much get out of us.
You want to hear something funny? It's not really funny, but the Dominican Republic is the United States.
Like they told me that if you go anywhere in like the resorts, if you go like to like the local place, they just kill you.
Oh yeah,
Or would you kidnap?
absolutely. They're some of the most dangerous places in the world
I gotta do that.
because the resorts are awesome, but
They are
not
really, really pretty.
Now I'm gonna take you to.
do not take it. Yeah, like I'm going to the Dominican for my honeymoon, but we're not leaving.
Like Molly, stuff that is a meeting, and when they go to like the work clients to like want those stuff, they ride in the back of the trucks literally in a cage because people like on the street will just rip you out and like kidnap you and hold you and get this like.
Has anybody ever seen the movie Taken?
Yes.
That is a real thing. That is not a like fake movie thing. It happens all the time. People don't like Americans. They find them traveling in foreign countries. They steal them. They force them into prostitution and sell them. It happens all the time. The amazing thing happens all the time. It's like the taken part. Like 98% of them are never found because they die within 3 years.
I don't want to go anywhere. 100% is like
Scares you, right? So the exact purpose, to get back on topic, of a protective tariff is to make goods that are similar in nature. So like a Lenovo Chromebook and whatever the new Chromebooks are. Anybody have any one? You know what I mean? One's made in the US, one's not. Yeah, one's Acer, one's Lenovo. And we say, hey, Lenovo's produced in the United States. It's not. But let's say it is. We tax the Acer computer to make it more expensive than the Lenovo computer, so people buy that American good rather than a good made overseas. And this is created to help economic prosperity, but it's almost exclusively used to exclude countries we don't like.
Why are we sure?
America. That's why. Does anyone know how much the United States spends on military a year? So let me put it this way. If I were to write on this board the top 26 countries in the world ranked by their amount they spend on their military, we would be number one.
All 6.
And if you added number 2 through number 26 together, you would not get what the United States spends at number 1.
Dude, it's September. We have to do before we get all there. I don't know my dad works for this like also very expensive stuff. Is September like
Yeah, so you have to propose a budget.
yeah, the military and like September they go crazy and they buy huge stuff. My dad actually for it. Yeah, it's freaking crazy. They make them work overtime, like we get overtime, like Saturdays and stuff like 10-hour days, like Saturdays.
Why don't you have to pay taxes your own base? Like all the military base, why don't you
Oh,
have
it's
to pay taxes?
nice.
Because the goods provided by the federal government, you don't pay taxes
Oh,
on
I guess
because
like
it's tax money that's buying it.
I went to like groceries in the base settings and like those purses, fourth purses were still the same exact price if not more.
Does anybody know why only military personnel and their families can shop on military bases? Because those military members are property of the federal government, and since you are considered a tradable, taxable thing, you're not a person anymore, you can't be charged taxes because you're not a person. So,
I mean,
Pretty crazy.
It doesn't matter, you just send that one person to the store. When we went on my cousins,
I mean, there's ways around.
yeah. And like we just wanted them everything, like gave them different cars to spend.
How many of you have an older family member that maybe you're not necessarily close to, that has a lot of money, that maybe you're waiting someday for maybe them to pass, and, you know, they leave you a bunch of money?
I know when they buy like if I did, my mom's house, but at work, we live on a farm in the night and day. Their kids at their house.
Well, the reason I ask is because the next thing we're going to talk about are state and gift taxes. So let's say you did have that family member, and they have a bunch of stuff, right? And let's say they leave it to you and your sibling. Okay, let's assume you have a sibling for this scenario. Okay? Guess what? 40% of whatever was given to you by that person will be taken. Because, so let's say they leave $1 million. You think that you're going to get $500,000 by splitting it in half. But actually, $400,000 of that's already gone. So you're actually going to get $300,000. So if you think about it in this sense, the government is taking $200,000 of every $500,000.
What if you still want to all these?
Huh?
What if you don't even want them?
You can't. They're still going to tax it.
Like, my mom, she told me that when she dies, she's putting everything like right in the middle, down, me and my sister, and I just don't even want to
This is what I am going to say to you. Does anybody know what this is? It's a thing. It's called a trust. And what happens is when a person dies, they have all their assets in a trust. And you get a little bit over 7 years. And if you put your assets in a trust, the government can't touch it. But you can't touch it either.
Until when?
7 years.
So,
And then you start getting it little by little after 7 years.
better hope you don't.
But it won't be taxed. Now, how many of you have ever received a gift before? Yeah, what's a gift? Gift. All right, estate taxes only apply to $2 million or most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't, but this is $2 million or more total. So this may sound like a lot of money, but when you think about people in their retirement plans, like when I retire, I'm going to have over $1 million just in retirement money to spend over the rest of my life not working. And you have cars, you have houses, everything and anything you have worth stuff. So $2 million actually isn't a whole lot. So don't let that number be like, oh, I'm not going to worry about it. Should. $2 million is not necessarily super high for somebody's assets when they pass. All right. And then there's gift tax. This is a tax on money given from one person to another. Yes, you simply can't give one person money without it being taxed. Of course, you can give small amounts of money, $1 here, $20, $100, and I believe it goes all the way up to $12,000 you can give somebody without having to pay tax on it. Sorry, I'll go back. Yeah. Okay? So any sum less than $12,000 is not subject to gift tax. There is an exception to this. If you win the lottery, if you win more than $5,000, it must be taxed. Okay? So winning $5,000 actually means you just won $3,000. But winning $4,000 means you won $4,000. So winning $5,000, you win less money than if you win $4,000.
Wow.
So there you go. Tip of the day: if you're gonna win the lottery, win less than $5,000.
It's still more.
Unless you're gonna win $1 million, then if you win $100,000, you win Just want to give you a little bit of time. Click that Jeopardy game that's on classroom. Yeah. I would click through that. And then once you're done clicking through that, let me know how it works.
You should keep